Hello, namaste. So, I just want to talk briefly about the cashless society today and talking about this huge global transformation that is taking place as we speak. But before I get into that, I just want to briefly touch on this whole transition that we're in right now. The year of 2020 is especially, it's a year filled with a lot of different agendas, and there's a lot of change happening, and a lot of change that's happening so fast that we're unable to digest all of it. And I know for many people now, they're coming out of quarantine, they're seeing changes that have been made. In some places, it's worse than others. In some places, there's like total day and night changes, and in other places, it's still kind of gradual. Um, One of the changes that I want to talk about is um, the cashless agenda, and why this isn't a good idea at all, but what we can kind of do to remedy it. So, the very first reason is why getting rid of cash is a bad idea is because number one, cards in general, debit cards are actually dirtier. They carry many more germs and bacteria than cash. And if we look at this website here, foxbusiness.com, we can see that they gave scores. However, this study, I don't know the details of the study. You can go ahead and have a look at the article and do your own research on this. But they actually gave a score on germs, and they said that the cards were actually 285 on their germ score, which was much higher than the cash, which was at 160. So that's just like a quick, cash is actually cleaner than cards are for some reason. And another thing is when you go to the store and you touch the pin pad, you're actually getting more germs because now, maybe somebody has like touched your $10 bill, prior to you having it, but maybe you've had it like in your wallet for 2 weeks. It depends how fast you spend money. But your pin pad, every time now you have to go somewhere, you're touching the pin pad that, maybe 400 other people touched it that day. So that's something to take into consideration, is that cash is cleaner than the cards. The second reason, which is like really more important than just dirty cards, is what happens if there's a power outage? Or what happens if the internet goes down? And I know in this day and age, people just don't think about these things. They don't think, what could happen if the internet, what happens if there's a power outage? And this happens, there's still such thing as earthquakes, floods. And if you have a completely, they want to go 100% digital. And the problem being, if you have 100% digital society, if there's just a flood in an area of 2 million people, basically 2 million people cannot eat, they cannot drink, they cannot have, they cannot do any kind of transactions at all whatsoever. So this is something to take into consideration. If you have cash on hand, you can still go and buy a loaf of bread for, 2 or 3 euros or dollars, and you can still eat something. If you have a completely automatic system, and we all know how technology works, we all know that it is not fail-safe. It is, there's problems that happen in technology. There's the machines break down, the electricity. If you just have a short in a power line somewhere, you may not get the electricity needed to be able to run the machine that's going to take your credit or debit card purchase, for example. And if you have a complete power outage in an area, you have thousands, maybe millions of people that cannot make purchases. So this is really something to take into consideration, prior to moving 100% to a digital society. Not to mention the fact that in one click, somebody in some government office could freeze or completely delete your bank account, and then you have access to nothing. We no longer have a conception of money, of physical money. And we are underutilizing the sense of touch when it comes to making financial transactions. And anytime that we are underutilizing a certain sensory organ, we have an imbalance in that organ. And if you kind of see where we're going towards, more virtual world, virtual reality, digital currency, all of these things that are engaging the mind. But slowly and surely, we're moving away from our physical world. And I did a different video on this, are we robot or are we human? This is actually a problem because we do live in a physical world. If we didn't live in a physical world, we would be essentially in an astral world 100% of the time. But we do have physical bodies for a reason. Having simply just digital money, we don't have any concept anymore of what is the value of money. We're not touching it, we're not smelling it, we're not even able to see it. All we're seeing is numbers. We're only engaging our eyes and our mind at that point, which is throwing all our other senses off balance. We don't know the value of work. If you work all day and you actually get, maybe you're a kid and you do some house chores and you get, €5 or $5 from your mom to go buy ice cream, the value of that hard-earned money, and well, with this money I can buy an ice cream. This buys me this amount of goods or items. By underutilizing our sense of touch, we are essentially putting our senses out of balance. So these are just my 3 things, and I'll put these articles below. The solution I wanted to say is that as we are transitioning towards this digital era, there is actually room for currencies. And there are cities that have local currencies. In fact, this is in Italy. They have actually taken the euro and they've actually made these ducati. If we just get off of the monetary system and start to create our own communities, we can create our own currencies within those communities and help those communities to be strong and have a strong foundation. And this could go essentially for cryptocurrencies or banknotes. For example, if you have, ABC dollars, and you live in a community of 10,000 people and all those 10,000 people use those ABC dollars, you'd have no need for a government currency, for example. You have no need for the dollar or the euro, which in these times right now is the perfect environment to create new currencies, because all the entire economy is essentially in collapse, and all those other currencies will have no value. They don't have value as we speak. So a really good incentive to get out there and see how you can be creative in your community, how you can support local businesses. If you have 10 businesses or 20 businesses all using that currency and the people that are supporting that, you can start to build a strong foundation in your community and be independent from a centralized monetary system, which is essentially what we will have to move towards in the future. So do I think we will go 100% digital? I don't think so, because I think many people will start to create their own currencies. Many communities will start to recirculate dollars in the form of whatever their local currency will be. And it has always existed. People have always done this. Communities have always done this from the beginning of time. And I don't think anything will change. I think There will still be a centralized system to a certain extent, to a certain point. But I think sooner or later, the entire system as we know it is going to collapse. So it's kind of our responsibility now to start to put new systems into place, because when the collapse happens, which it will, and it may not happen next year or in 2 years or maybe even 5 years, I think there's going to be a lot of fear and restrictions imposed upon us first before we start to see the the starlight through the clouds again, so to speak. But I think as we move out of this quarantine and as we start to see all these changes that are trying to be really implemented really quickly, I think it's even more imperative that we look towards solutions on how we can liberate ourselves from these constrictive and restrictive measures that are trying to be implemented onto us now and that have always been that have always been trying to, limit us and restrict us in certain ways. So I think really now this is the prime time. This is almost like the time that we have to shine and really take our power back as people. And we can really, if we can get past, the differences and we can work together, I think we should really start to work on solutions at this point. So that being said, just 3 things why the whole cashless thing, in my opinion, is not a good idea and what we can do to improve it moving forward. So hope that helps. If you want to subscribe. If you like the video, go ahead and hit like. Let me know if you have any other reasons why cashless is a bad idea and if you would have any other solutions. So thank you. Namaste.